All right, so I had a bit of a glitch with my session where my browser froze on me, and when I tried to sign back in, it was locking me out. So I had to lock the room, then come back in. So hopefully, I posted this. Hopefully, the folks that were in the room with me before my crash are going to be able to come back. I know at least one of you has. So, all right.
Yeah, this is Yogi. I'm here. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So we're going to go ahead and get started here with this session. Going through briefly the slides. We'll have a question session, and then we'll go through a brief overview of the 4 news articles from the video lecture, and then we'll do one more round of questions. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started here. We're talking inductive versus deductive reasoning. All right. So first off, what's the difference between the two? Well, inductive reasoning is performed by crafting a conclusion based on the existing evidence, rather than seeking out evidence which backs up a pre-existing conclusion you want to reach. You adjust your conclusion to match what actual facts exist. Okay, it's less commonly used for argument essays, because arguments are usually set prior to performing research. Okay, most regular research papers, though, use inductive reasoning to come up with a conclusion. However, most argument essays go to work with deductive reasoning, which works backward from the conclusion, looking for evidence which justifies that conclusion. So the facts you're seeking are the ones which will prove your argument. Now, it's a more common style of reasoning used for arguments that can be seen as slightly easier to deal with, as having a conclusion to focus on helps to focus research tighter. Okay, this is more like what you're going to usually be used to when it comes to researching and doing arguments. Okay.
Hello?
Yeah, we're in session right now. Okay. The organization of an inductive reasoning essay typically follows these guidelines. Okay. So start off with demonstrating the relevance of the topic. Why is it related to the topic that you're discussing? State the main argument and claims clearly. Okay, for sure, make sure that you are getting your main argument clearly articulated. Make sure your claims are clearly articulated. Okay. Arrange evidence that best supports the main conclusion. All right. So use the evidence in the best way possible so that the conclusion is supported and you have a logical progression. Then interpret and analyze the evidence for the audience. All right. Look at some important points and how to handle each one in context. Give me 1 second here. Man. All right, just getting a technical issue taken care of here. All right, so let's look at the important points of how to handle each one in context. Okay, so relevance to the topic. You have to show how your argument, and on a smaller scale, a piece of your evidence you are presenting is relevant to the overall topic of the argument. An irrelevant point is only going to act as signal noise, so you want to make sure that all of the research materials that you're using are going to be things that apply to the argument, or they're things that are going to be effective in terms of how they're used. Now, as an example, this is an exercise that you have in the video lecture. I do want to apologize because I did not post the thread for this exercise until today under questions to the professor. If you go there now, there is now a thread called Week 4 Video Lecture, Week 4 Video Exercises Election Security. Okay. So for all the exercises I have in this lecture, go ahead and put your reply in that thread. So this is the first one. You're writing an inductive reason argument about election procedures and want to use the 2020 Iowa caucuses as part of your evidence. Look at the 4 articles below and determine which one of these is least likely. The importance of having a backup plan for election security. And the 4 articles I gave you is one from the Des Moines Register, one from NPR, one from the New York Times, and one from Politico. We're going to be looking at all 4 of those articles at the end of the session here. So you have time to look at the articles, evaluate them based on the topic of election security, and determine which one of them is going to be the least useful. Okay, you're looking for relevance to that topic. Right. This gets us to arranging evidence and interpretation. When you have the evidence to prove your point, it comes time to arrange it so that it's in the best, most logical order to support your main argument and your conclusion. There also needs to be an explanation to the significance of every piece of evidence you must show why the facts point to your conclusion being the correct one. Now, there is another exercise involving this, putting this into practice or going back to those new articles. So, based on your answer, of the 3 articles you felt were most applicable to the election security topic, you're going to choose facts from the articles that back up a thesis statement summarized as: competent election security is vital to preserving an individual citizen's right to vote and have their voice heard in their government. Okay? So that's one part. Next part, decide how you would arrange the facts you've pulled from the articles to support this thesis statement in a logical fashion. The usual method is to place the most compelling piece of evidence first, then descending order in terms of strength. Okay? Third, discuss how you would justify including each fact you present. What is the overall meaning of that piece of evidence in context with the thesis? What point does it make to prove the thesis correct? So this is basically the strength of the argument. All right? Next slide. That gets us into deductive reasoning. Okay? So we have 2 exercises there to be done for inductive reasoning. Now we're into deductive. Construction of a deductive reasoning argument typically works backwards from conclusion. Goes generally through a 3-step process. So start off by identifying your conclusion. Then you need to examine your reasons. Then finally formulate the premise. Okay? Fairly straightforward list of process there. So once again, we're going to go through these steps and get a handle of them. We're going to be doing more work with the election security topic and those articles. So starting off with identifying the conclusion. Your conclusion is basically your argument. You will want to make this the central point of your essay as you continue to debate the opposition throughout it. So everything is driving toward your argument, your conclusion. Okay? Once you've identified your main conclusion, then what you're going to do is need to look at why you have reached that conclusion. What reasons do you have for reaching that particular conclusion? This includes your reasons for your argument and how you justify thinking that way. All right, so your reasons are going to be pivotal here. Okay? Right now in your teams, normally it is a team exercise, but you're going to do it individually. Again, in that thread on questions of the professor. Use your notes from the inductive reasoning exercise about election security and the Iowa caucuses, and based on these alone, construct a conclusion you want to make. Okay? What kind of conclusion do you want to reach based on that information? From that conclusion, construct reasons for its support. Think critically about all the possible reasons there could be for coming to that conclusion based on the evidence you have before you. At this point, you can also search for more evidence on the topic, more news articles, more academic papers, anything like that. Okay? Then from there, formulate the premise. This is the basic principle on which you will base your argument. If you do this right, this is where you'll find common ground between yourself and your audience. This is where the concept of syllogism is useful. We've talked about syllogism before. Structure of syllogism is perfect for composing major and minor premises for the purposes of providing an argument. If you are able to construct a syllogism for your main problem and conclusion, it will be easier to construct the full argument as the structure is going to be similar. Okay? Now remember that the structure of syllogism is major premise, minor premise, conclusion. If A leads to B and B leads to C, therefore A leads to C, as we put it in the lecture. Okay? In your team, another team one, we're going to have you guys do individually. Take 10 minutes to construct a working syllogism for your take on election security. So at this point, don't worry about the evidence. You want to focus solely on what premise you think would be easiest to prove and find a logical means to prove it. Okay? So you're going to create your own syllogism for this particular topic. That gets us to argument structure, which should ultimately help you no matter what type of argument you're writing. Okay? When you get to the actual writing part of it. So your basic argument structure, you have the introduction, where you state the problem and use whatever hook you need to gain the audience's attention. Okay, bring your audience into your writing, make them stick around for your conclusions. Okay, that leads to the main premise, where you present and explain the main premise you're using as the basis for your argument. At this point, you should also present the conclusion you intend to reach. All right, so you're going to want to use this as the basis for your entire argument. Okay. The main premise you are trying to argue, and the conclusion that you're ultimately going to achieve. Then go to the reasons. Why you support the proposition. At this point, also address counter arguments. Okay, so this is where you are doing refutation of the opposition. This is also where you're going to be presenting your reasons for supporting it and the evidence that back up those reasons. Conclusion. You're going to restate the main conclusion with a summary of the evidence presented which proves it. And remind readers of the main premise and leave a lasting impression. Okay, the conclusion is your chance to make a parting shot at your audience and leave them with something. Okay? I also do apologize if I'm starting to have signal issues. It is actually raining where I am right now, and I'm working with a cell phone hotspot to get internet for this session today. So if I'm having signal issues, it's probably the weather. I apologize. All right, that gets us to our revision workshop, which is what you should be doing this week. Okay, we're doing workshopping on these classical argument essays. So you need to upload a rough draft of your team's discussion thread on the discussion board. Okay, your draft should be as a response to the thread for your team. You're going to be sharing it with your team and getting feedback from your teammates. Okay. Now I am going to double check here while we're here. I'm going to take a look at the teams right now because I do see one topic, specifically revision workshop. I do want to encourage you guys, if at all possible, especially on stuff like these, do not establish your own threads. Use the threads that I started with, okay? Because I've got two separate threads started for two separate teams where they're starting their own threads for the workshopping. I want you to work with the threads that I establish. Okay, so let's see what we have here. We have there's the three drafts. Let's see. I do not. That team doesn't have a drafts. Let's see. 4 drafts. That's one team with a draft. On average, we're averaging about 1 draft per team right now. Okay, there's a team with 2 drafts. Okay. So really, considering that this particular group of students is supposed to be numbering approximately 75, the fact that I've only got 8 drafts is kind of disappointing. Okay. I have been making note of this. You need to do this. I've given you instructions on how to do it. And I'm really kind of seeing the reason why people aren't doing it is because they're either not accessing the slides, or they're not bothering to watch the entirety of the lectures. It may surprise you, but I can check the duration of time people watch my videos. Okay, the YouTube actually has a tool for that, and I'm looking at the tool right now, and it shows that the highest average view duration I have is about 24 minutes, and that was That was August 24th. The average duration of time people are watching the videos this week is a little under 9.5 minutes. And that's 9.5 minutes out of an hour-long video. You're barely getting anything out of it. Okay, I do appreciate you saying you watched the whole thing. Okay, but we need to make sure everybody is watching it as thoroughly as possible. Okay, because there's usually stuff that you need at the end of it. So this is what was at the end of this week's. Okay, these are all the instructions for doing workshopping. You need to upload your draft to the team discussion board, and every member of the team must post revision feedback on every essay. Okay, that's one big thing. Yeah, that's the problem I'm seeing, is that people are posting drafts and nobody is responding to them. Okay, you need to respond to your teammates. They are to give them feedback. Okay, post your feedback as a direct reply to your teammate's essay. Upload the essay as a reply to the thread, then reply to the upload to give feedback. Okay? Every member of the team must post revision feedback on every essay. You must post a draft to your team's discussion board. You must check the discussion board to find the draft and offer feedback. You need to be checking your team's discussion board every day. At least during workshop weeks, you need to be checking every day. So this week's workshop is a revision workshop, so the feedback needs to be focusing on the content of the essay and not on proofreading or grammar elements. So this would include things like organization. Is the structure right? Does it have a logical flow? The readability. How easy is it for an average person to read? Okay. The focus. Are they staying on topic, or are they drifting away onto other things? And then specifically for classical argument, is the subject well analyzed? Do they have a good enough grip on the subject matter that they can present an argument in a legitimate fashion? Are claims supported sufficiently and appropriately? Do they have enough support for their claims, or are they kind of spitting in the ocean here? Okay. Do they have enough evidence to back up what they're saying? Clear thesis statement. Are you able to tell for sure what it is that person is trying to argue, or what the point is of the essay that they're writing? Okay? So these are the things that you need to be giving feedback on drafts for. Okay? All revision issues. So with that in mind, we're going to go ahead and open up to questions for now. We'll do some questions when they slow down here. We'll take a look at some articles. Okay? So let's open it up. Raise your hand. I'll recognize you, and you can fire away with your question.
The articles?
We're going to be talking about the articles that are in the lecture.
Okay.
When is the due date?
The due date for argument is going to be next Friday. Okay, next week is the proofreading and editing workshop on this paper, and then it's due next Friday.
Sir, and one more question. Can it be any topic, or do you want it on a specific topic of voting?
We need to have a topic set by now, but the topic is something coming from current events.
Thank you. I do have a topic, but I was just wondering. Thank you so much.
Okay. And if you have questions and you have the ability to raise your hand, go ahead and raise your hand. I know the last question was one of the callers, and they don't have that function. Okay, Mohammed, I see you there. What's your question?
It was a mistake. Sorry.
Okay, no problem.
I have a question on my topic that I've chosen. Can I ask you that?
Yeah, what's the question?
I was thinking of writing about unemployment and relevance to. So when I thought about unemployment, I had like three different things pop up in my head. One was okay, the obvious COVID-19, and the other was the most commonly debated topic right now, immigration and its impact and outsourcing. So do you think this is a relevant topic or is it too wide? Because I've been trying to read materials on it, try to get information.
All right. Well, unemployment itself, just by itself, is probably going to be way too wide. Unemployment COVID-19 is probably going to be an easier one to deal with because there's going to be a wealth of information on it right now. Immigration effect on it, that one, you could do it, but I have to warn you that that's going to be a danger zone of political punditry. So you're going to have to you can do it, but you're going to have to be extremely cautious of what your sources are and their credibility, because there's going to be a lot of people who are going to try to push things, going to try to push the agenda one way or the other on that topic.
Yeah, I've been totally relying on data. Like I was trying to get more. I'm trying to get a neutral perspective, not trying to go on either side of the political spectrum. Trying to just get focus on. Right now, immigration is an issue, but how is it impacting on the job market, which is already depleted? High unemployment rate. So that was what I was thinking. I was concerned, like, can I put in data? And there was like various dates and it went into outsourcing topics. So it was just like.
Well, honestly, data is the best sourcing that you have. Okay, if it's like almost strictly numerical data, that's actually some of the best evidence you can use. But now the key though is you have to make sure that you're using all of the data available and not pulling an Orrin hatch and picking out whatever it is that you feel suits your argument, or misreading it so that you think it says one thing where it actually says something else. So you just have to have a very careful reading of that data, but it'll be excellent to use for that.
Okay. I'm relying mostly on a lot of, hold on, I don't know whether I have those articles open right now or not. It was based on some articles from the Balance, and it had more information. Yeah, it was very data oriented.
Okay, yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, so anything that's strictly data oriented, that's probably going to be your best bet for research on that particular topic.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
No problem. Okay. I'll get a couple more questions here, and then I'll go ahead and give you guys a look at those articles that I mentioned.
Sorry, one more thing.
Yeah.
Word count. Is there any specific word count for the essay?
I don't go with word counts. I go with page counts. So it's 3 to 5 pages. And it should be double spaced, though, okay?
All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right, so what I'm going to go ahead and do is we're going to go through the 4 articles that were mentioned in the video lecture. Now, these are going to be the articles about the Iowa caucuses from this year that you're using to evaluate what sources are going to be most applicable for your purposes. in terms of an article about election security, okay, or an essay about election security, okay? So let's take a look quickly at the 4 articles. I'm going to give you a couple screens worth of text for each one, and then it'll be up to you to read the rest of the way on them, and then evaluate them and see how well they fit in with the topic of election security. All right, so the first one is the Des Moines Register, if my computer will cooperate. So this is the article from the Des Moines Register. Iowa caucuses 2020 delayed results, app glitches mar the caucus process. Okay. So let's go ahead and take a look at the first couple of screens of this article, and then we'll move on to the next. Glitches and inconsistencies delayed Iowa's caucus results Monday night. Here's what we know about the race so far. App glitches reporting inconsistencies. Campaign workers for Democrats reported glitches with the new reporting app they were supposed to use to report caucus results Monday night. But Mandy McClure, communications director for the Iowa Democratic Party, said the delays were the result of quality checks and the fact the party was reporting 3 sets of data for the first time. McClure said the party did find inconsistencies in the 3 data sets: the first round, the second round, and the overall delegate numbers. Coin toss gives Klobuchar an edge over Warren at caucus site. When an Iowa caucus delegate count gets too close to call, toss a coin. That's what apparently happened at several precincts in the 2020 Iowa caucus, including a rural precinct in Iowa Falls on Monday evening during a tight caucus count between Senators Amy Klobuchar and Elizabeth Warren. There's a tweet here. There's talk that there's going to be a coin flip. Klobuchar and Warren both have 19 supporters, which equals 4 delegates, and there's a limit to the number of total delegates. The scenarios in which the delegate count is decided by a coin toss are laid out in the Iowa Democratic Party caucus rules. The Des Moines Register reported on some of those scenarios in 2016, after a razor-thin race between U.S. Senator Bernie Sanders and Secretary of State Hillary Clinton had several delegates assigned by coin toss. All right, so that's first couple screens on Des Moines Register. So the next one is from NPR, National Public Radio. This article is titled Lessons Learned from the Iowa Caucuses and Danger Signs Ahead. Okay, first couple of screens worth of text on this, and then we'll move on to the next. If the Iowa caucuses were a pop quiz on how well the nation is prepared for the 2020 elections, it looks like almost everyone failed, or at least that they need to do a lot more remedial work. The meltdown was extensive. The smartphone app purchased by the Iowa Democratic Party for precincts to use to report caucus votes didn't work as planned. The backup hotline system also failed, leaving party officials scrambling on Tuesday to answer questions and produce results, as candidates and the public tried to figure out what was going on. Some election watchers were not surprised. Douglas Jones, a computer scientist at the University of Iowa, was one of many who have warned for weeks that maybe it wasn't such a good idea to introduce a new technology at such a critical time, with the eyes of the nation on the first presidential voting of 2020. Caucus chairs, in many cases, apparently were attempting to download and install the app on their phones on CaucusMate. That's extraordinarily difficult to do that kind of thing under pressure, says Jones. Downloading an app at the last minute is crazy. Alicia Gaiman, the Democratic Party chair in Scott County, said their attempts were complicated by measures put in place to protect the reporting system against outside attacks. We had a lot of our precinct captains and temporary chairs and permanent chairs that were trying to log into the system, and quite frankly, there were so many layers of security they would get messed up, she said. Out of frustration, they resorted to calling a backup hotline, which was quickly overwhelmed with calls. There were other worrisome things that occurred Monday night, which election experts see as warning signs of the kinds of problems that can emerge in the months ahead. Okay, so that's the NPR article, first couple screens of it. On to the next one, which is the New York Times. New York Times article, How the Iowa Caucuses Became a Fiasco for Democrats. Problems that beset the Democratic Party's first state caucus of the presidential race ran far deeper and wider than one bad app. Okay. First couple of screens on this, then we'll move on to the next one. The first signs of trouble came early. As the smartphone app for reporting the results of the Iowa Democratic caucuses began failing last Monday night, party officials instructed precinct leaders to move to Plan B, calling the results into caucus headquarters where dozens of volunteers would enter the figures into a secure system. But when many of those volunteers tried onto their computers, they made an unsettling discovery. They needed smartphones to retrieve a code, but they had been told not to bring their phones into the boiler room in Des Moines. From school gymnasiums, union halls, and the myriad other gathering places that made the Iowa caucuses a world-famous model of democracy, it soon became clear that the whole process was melting down. Volunteers resorted to passing around a spare iPad to log into the system. Melissa Watson, the state's party's chief financial officer, who was in charge of the boiler room, did not know how to operate a Google spreadsheet application used to input data, Democratic officials later acknowledged. Desperate to verify results, began telling some precinct leaders to email photographs of their worksheets, the paper forms used to tally results, to a dedicated email address. But for hours, no one monitored the inbox. When it was finally opened Tuesday morning, there were 700 unread emails waiting, with photos that had been sent sideways. Volunteers had to crane their necks to decipher the handwritten forms. An hour after the caucuses began, the Iowa Democratic Party chairman Troy Price huddled in the room with other officials, none of them with a clear strategy to manage the unfolding chaos or answers to share with increasingly exasperated presidential campaigns. A conference call with the campaigns ended with Mr. Price hanging up on them and accusations that caucus results in Iowa may have been incorrectly reported for decades. As disastrous as the 2020 Iowa caucuses have appeared to the public, the failure runs deeper and wider than has previously been known, according to dozens of interviews with those involved. It was a full system breakdown that a critical contest on the American political calendar has been managed for years. Okay, so that is the New York Times article. It goes on from there. We got the last one is from Politico. Okay, the Politico article is titled "Trump Revels in Iowa Caucus Mess and Takes a Shot at Buttigieg." Okay, first couple screens on this, and then we'll conclude this. All right. President Donald Trump on Friday expressed glee at the evolving Iowa caucus mess, calling the Democratic breakdown in the state sad and embarrassing while taking a shot at Pete Buttigieg. Although I'm not overly embarrassed by it, Trump added with a smirk. I see these shows this morning. They're saying, oh, this is a disaster. Trump is going to kill us on this one. They're right. Trump, speaking on the Academy at an Opportunity Now summit in Charlotte, North Carolina, called the Iowa Democratic caucus results fried and took the opportunity to add doubt about the count. Showed former South Bend, Indiana Mayor Pete Buttigieg with a razor-thin lead over Senator Bernie Sanders in the state delegate count. Of all these people, I was first. No, I was first, Trump said, most likely referencing Buttigieg and Sanders, who have both claimed victory. It turned out to be Pete Buttigieg, whoever the hell that is, Trump said. Mayor Pete, explain that one to me. The Iowa Democratic Party and Democratic National Committee are still struggling to come up with a plan to verify the results of the caucuses. It so far declined to declare a winner. On Friday, the state party chair called for an independent investigation into exactly what went wrong in the state's caucuses, which were thrown into disarray after the app used to report results experienced technical difficulties. With reports from 100% of the precincts in, we are taking steps to ensure the accuracy of the results, Troy Pierce, the state party chair, tweeted. An independent investigation of what happened is necessary once we finalize the results. All right, so we'll leave that one there. Okay. And that was the articles. So we're going to go ahead and just to give you the reminder here, those articles are used for the exercise in the video lecture. All the exercises involving a hypothetical essay on election security. So first off, you're supposed to pick out which of those articles are most useful for that topic. Then you need to write up some elements about that. Let me just double check here. Choose facts from the articles to back up a thesis. Decide how you'd arrange your facts to support that thesis. How would you justify including each fact you present? Okay. Then from here, you are going to, let's see. Then you're going to, for deductive reasoning exercise, you're going to use your notes on those articles to construct a conclusion that you want to make about election security. From that conclusion, construct your reasons for it, and then construct a working syllogism for your take on election security. Okay. Those are the things that I if you respond to them, you have a thread set up in the questions to the professor discussion forum for that. All right, so we'll go ahead and open this up for questions one more time here. Anyone who has any questions, go ahead and raise your hand if you can. Not just go ahead and pipe up.
I don't
sir?
have questions.
Okay, which one of you wants to go first? Let's have the caller go first.
Would that be me?
Yeah.
Okay. So I've chosen, this is two things. I've chosen a topic and I'm trying, do I have to put an opposing argument to this? So I'm doing a hybrid system for healthcare instead of universal healthcare that would be supported by Bernie.
Okay.
Do I need to put that opposing viewpoint in one of my paragraphs?
Yes, because you are taking a side in this argument. You need to acknowledge the opposition.
Right.
So you need to acknowledge that you know what the.
Sorry.
So you need to acknowledge that you know what the opposition's argument is, so that you are better able to respond to it.
Right. And secondly, to this question, with the weekly discussion topics, I've been having a hard time getting to them. I've been keeping up with the Mind tab, but just the weekly discussion threads.
Okay. Honestly, the discussion threads, to me, it seems like they'd be kind of easier to get to than Mind tab. On eCampus, you have the left-hand menu with all the different links. You go scroll down to see one that says class discussion boards.
Mm-hmm.
And then very first link on that page, after you click on that, is weekly discussion topics. And then
I know where they. I know
Right.
where they are. It's just been a hard time keeping up with them, and I'm wondering if that's gonna affect me. It'll affect me.
Just do them when you can. Basically, I'm not really grading this until the board locks at the end of the semester, and it's the participation grade. So as long as you post at least one full response to as many as you can, your grade shouldn't be affected too badly.
Okay.
Yeah, the threads remain open. They don't lock until the entire board locks at the end of the semester.
And do you consider the census a good reference? I know it's the .gov and everything. I just want to make sure I can use that.
Census Bureau is usable, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Oh, I'm done now. Sorry. Thank you, sir.
Okay. So yeah. All right. So let's get any other questions out there?
No, not really.
Okay. Okay, I see your hand there. Go ahead with your question.
Yeah, so I finished writing my essay, and are we supposed to post our draft somewhere else where we could like discuss with the group? Because I'm trying to find the place to to post it, and then we could have a discussion with my group. But
Okay.
I don't. Yeah.
Okay, it's the team discussion boards. Find your team's discussion board, and you need to find your team's discussion thread, and you need to post your draft as an attachment to a reply to that thread. Okay, and that way your teammates can get to it and view it and give you back your feedback. And also, if you have teammates that have submitted already, you can give them feedback as well.
All right. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, sir.
Uh-huh. All right. Any further questions?
No further questions, Your Honor.
Okay. We'll go about 5 more minutes, see if anybody has any more, and if there isn't, then we'll go ahead and wind things up. Yes, go ahead.
It seems like we don't have much to do beside the essay and then the mind tab. Is there anything that I'm missing that we were supposed to do? Discussion board and the essay and then the mind tab. That's the three things we're working on right now, right?
Yeah, those are the only things that you're working on that get graded. And there's the video lecture exercise is mostly a practice thing, so that you have some practice working with sources and lining up different types of arguments. Okay, it's not necessarily graded, but it's good for practice, and if you do it, you actually will improve.
Thanks, sir.
Yep. All right, you there? Go ahead with your question.
My question is that about the work cited. Actually, like I see like some Dallas news and some other state news, like how the disadvantage is going to happen to the country if the police got defunded. So like if I use like any kind of that sources, like do I need to like cite that video as well in the work cited?
Yes, you.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
No problem. Any outside sources that you may use need to be included in your works cited. Since don't seem to have any more questions, I'm going to go ahead and wrap things up here. Just so you know, next week we're going to have a little bit of fun with applying concepts from verbal debate into written arguments. Plus, as a reminder, next week is going to be the proofreading and editing workshop. So make sure that you've gotten your drafts posted this week and gotten your feedback so that you can apply it to the paper and turn around with another draft next week. Okay? I will see you guys next week. We'll do this session again, same time as usual. I will see you guys then. Thank you.